Okay, no homework. So I know most of you submitted your homework assignment about choosing which mission in Avos you wanted to do. This one's actually not anyone's choice. I wanted to actually do this one, and you'll see why. Here, let me pass it out. Anything familiar? Yeah. So I wanted to do this one because this is the continuation of the first one we did in the beginning of the year. And so that's one reason I wanted to do it, because I think I remember that at the time, then several of you were interested in this next clause. And also, I think this is a very useful one for our purposes that follows in line with what we said earlier. Okay, let's go. Hillel Omer, who wants to read? Now that everyone can hear.
I can read.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, Omer. Hillel said, all meforshim and zibur do not separate from the group.
Good.
They're all common ba'atzma, and do not believe do not believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Ad yom mosach, until the day you die.
Yep.
Al tadines chaverach ad shetagia limkomo, and do not judge your friend
Good.
until you reach his place.
Good. Yep.
Ve'al tomar davar she'i efshar lishmoa, and don't say a thing which is not possible to be heard.
Yeah, so lishmoa is either to be heard or to be understood. Yeah, yeah. So I'm not. I think I translated it this way because if you say something that people literally can't hear.
Right.
Well, actually, no. Maybe you can say that also. Yeah, no. Either I think both those are shot. So I just did this here. Yeah, go ahead.
Sofo lehishama, that in the end it will be heard.
Yep.
Ve'al tomar.
This is a hard one. Yeah.
And don't think that when I turn, I will change.
Yeah, so epana here, so pana is to turn. Pana is also to empty. And here it means when I am free, like when I have like free time, you know. Then eshna, like from the word vishinan tam levanecha, or like mishnah, like I will learn.
We did it.
Yeah, we read this one.
All like kind of a review.
Well, no, this is all we read this on day one of Lomdeha. We read the entire thing, but then we only focused on analyzing don't believe in yourself until the day you die.
Didn't we do a different mishnah which was similar to this? Oh, when I'm free, I'll learn.
It does sound familiar. Oh yeah, it was familiar. That was the theme was similar, which is but that was don't. That was
time.
Yeah, you should set time. I'll say yeah. Similar thing. It was a similar subject. Okay, so this time, unlike last time, this time we're going to focus on this clause. Don't judge your friend until you reach his place. Okay. So, what are the questions on this clause?
I mean, first of all, it's kind of obvious. Like,
Okay, good. Let's write that one down. Okay, so, isn't this obvious? Okay. In fact, it's an American idiom. It's not on the surface, right? What's the American idiom? Not don't walk around in their shoes, but don't. Yeah, say yeah. Okay, sorry. I thought you said
the whole thing, but something.
Yeah. Well, what's the thing?
Until you're in their shoes.
Don't we say? Don't judge a person until you've walked a mile in their shoes, right? Isn't that the statement?
Oh, I thought the beginning was more
It's very close to this thing. Yeah.
Also, until you reach, it seems like it's possible to.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good. So.
Is it possible or is it not?
Also,
Yeah.
how we know, like, we did a thing with Miss H. Like, you're never going to be in the same situation as someone else.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So
also,
let's.
we did that in your class.
Yes, in Mishlei.
Yeah,
Nice. I was
Mishlei.
hoping someone remember that. Okay. Good. So.
Actually, I
you.
do that in my college, I think.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
So until you reach their place implies that when you do reach their place, then you can judge them, right? So, so two questions: why, and
How will you know if you're
and is it possible? Yeah, is it possible? That's what you said before, Alia?
Yeah.
Is it possible to reach their place? Right. Yeah. Good. What else?
Isn't it never right to judge your friend?
or is it never right?
Okay. Yeah. So Yeah, I'm gonna actually add that into here. So why is it ever right to judge your friend? Okay, good. Yeah.
Also, we say Havidama Popsla or
Okay,
like,
good. So this is a an extrinsic question, but one that I do want to address because it's related to that thing. How does this how do we reconcile this? How do we reconcile this with heavy don eskol adam lekach zuchus? Okay, meaning what are the parameters for each for each.
Although this question kind of like answers one. Like if you can never really truly be in your friend's place, then like what is this saying?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah. Oh, that you were restating. Are you saying that that's as a new question, or are you saying that that's
kind of as a new question? Because in those, the assumption is like, oh, like can you not? But I'm saying like you definitely can't. So then how are we understanding?
Okay, so is it possible to reach their place? And if it's not, then what is the Mishnah saying, right?
Yeah. Also, who's the audience of this? Like, is this just a chassid thing or everyone?
Yeah. Okay. Good. Hold on here. Who is the audience? Is this just midas chasidus?
I feel like it's kind
Or
of
for
related to
everyone.
that with the whole Havidam Akalam Chaskat, because like we're saying that thing was for, like we were saying that was like partly for Chasidus, right?
Yeah. Right. This
And
definitely
it's kind of the same thing.
definitely feels like it could apply to everybody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But we have to see. I think there's another identity question here.
Oh, only your friend?
Yeah, who is chaverecha, right? Chaverach. Who is
Can you
your
judge, like, a
friend?
random celebrity?
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. No, it's a legitimate question, right? Yeah.
Like,
Is this oops, sorry. Is this
sorry,
this is this specifically someone you know? Is it any Jew? Is it any person? Right? Okay, good. I think there's one more question.
What is it doing in this context?
Oh yeah, there's two more questions. Yeah. Okay, so so again, this is like any question we have on Pirkei Avos, which is this clause related to the other contents of the Mishnah or not? If so, how? Yeah, right. Meaning, because that is general machlokas, right? Is this or can we learn it on its own, or is it related?
What is their place? Like, what does that even mean?
Okay, that's a good question. Also, there's two more questions. Okay, what is meant?
The font keeps getting
well,
smaller.
I mean,
yeah.
this is like just like their situation that we might not understand.
Well, that's one answer, but there might be another one. Yeah. A lot of questions for 7 words. What does S mean?
What do they mean? And don't. Well done.
Yeah.
Oh, because like, what is that? Well, it's the question.
Yeah,
'cause
yeah.
what is that?
What do you say, Ayala?
I said why is it feminine, but I think
No.
that's just.
Yeah, I think that's actually not feminine. I think
Really?
it's Aramaic, and in Aramaic they switch back and forth between cha and ach, and it's not a gender thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
What's the practical application?
Oh, okay, close. Ask that same question based on the words.
How do we do this?
It's not the same thing as saying what's.
Question is, what? Oops, sorry. What does it mean to judge?
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
Meaning, is it in your mind? Is it like in statements? Is it like actually like based in? Yeah. And that's like practically like it's gonna be okay. Good. Okay, so a lot of questions, a lot more than I thought they were gonna be. Okay, so you want to try answering them before we go to the meforshim?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you say?
Maybe you can't judge them because like what does that have to do with the thing above? Because like maybe you can't judge them until they're in their place because everyone's changing. So like that their place or where they are right now is not them. You can't really judge it.
Sorry, I did. Yes. Yeah.
So you can't judge it because it's not like their end.
Okay. So let's just review the idea that we said last time. Yeah. Leia's getting all murderous back there. The idea of don't believe in yourself until the day you die, we said, is that there is no real you. You're constantly changing as a result of your decisions. So Emily is saying, since that's the case, then it would be improper for you to, just like it's improper for you to believe that there's a set self. What would be the mistake? Like, I think you have a good approach. What would be the mistake if you say, oh, this is a bad person?
Because they're changing.
Because they're changing.
That's not them right now.
Right.
That's them right now, but maybe not like in.
Right. So you can say, in other words, you can say that their actions are bad, but you can't make any judgment on the person themselves. Okay. But I think there's a problem with interpreting it. I think that's a good.
Yeah, because I think the pasuk is talking about their actions, not themselves.
Okay, that could be one, but I think there's actually something that's a way to disprove that reading from this.
It says
until you reach their place, right? So that implies that there is a point at which you could judge them.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, I think that like a lot of this Mishlei sounds like it's talking about a person as a whole, and not just one specific instance.
Yeah, it does. You're right. It does sound like it is, but that part would be in line with what Emily is saying, because then
exactly.
you're trying to judge the person as a whole.
Right,
and it's the point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe since we're ever changing, then it's saying that we can reach their place. So if we judge them at where they are now, then that could be wrong because we don't actually know. I don't know.
I didn't quite catch that.
Maybe the mistake is like thinking that all humans are like the same, but really they're not, and like everyone has different, first of all, like personality, character traits, whatever, and also different experiences.
Yeah.
So like what may be like something bad for you is like really a good thing for them.
Yeah.
And can you go back to the question, sir?
Yes.
So like until you reach their place, it's saying until you know their like, well, their past, like you reach their place, meaning like you like know all their experiences and also like who they are and what made them who they are.
Okay, so that's saying that. So you're saying reaching their place means that you have knowledge of everything leading up to like that.
Yeah, including like their which is why it's impossible, I think.
So you're saying that this is a statement that's saying something that's impossible.
But it's saying it's pointing out why it's impossible.
Right. So here's the thing: is that like on the one hand, generally, I'd be inclined to say that that's not a good reading because it does seem to imply that there is a point where you can judge them. However, until the day you die is also effectively saying never believe in yourself, even though in other words, don't believe in yourself until the day you die is phrasing it as though, there is a time you can believe in yourself, but practically you can't. So that lends support to your type of reasoning, and that might revive Emily's reading also, right? Because now we're saying that you can never judge them, right? And so then the only question is, well, why is it saying until you reach their place? And that's what you're saying, which is until you've gone through the entire journey, like, and then like got to this point, then you like if you were following someone their entire life and were familiar with every experience and every decision they made, then you could judge them. But since you can't, then therefore you can't.
Maybe that's
sorry. Since you can't follow someone, therefore you can't judge them. Yeah.
Sorry.
And maybe that's like the difference between a chassid and a normal person. Like a normal person may say, "Oh yeah, like I reached their place. I know their experiences."
Right.
But really, you don't. Well, I guess that's.
Meaning, according to what you're saying, this would apply to everyone. But you're saying, I think you just tell me if I'm misunderstanding you. You're saying now the average person just is not thinking on this level where they realize the impossibility of actually doing this.
Yeah.
Like most people feel like they can judge it. Yeah.
So then, with that explanation, the purpose of this specific two sentences would be to show that you can, that every person has like a unique set of instances that made them and made them unique. And you can never know all those things, and because of that, you can really never judge a person. Yeah. Because I feel like that's not the vibe you get when you read it.
Yeah, I also feel like that's not the vibe you get when you read it, and that's why I'm saying, like, if it was just this statement alone, then I would be inclined to reject it. But because it does follow the pattern of the previous statement, I'm more open to the idea. And in fact,
all of them are like that.
The last one's definitely like that, right? Don't say when I'm free, then I'll learn. Because it's saying that point will never happen. You won't get to that point. You'll never be free. And don't say something that's impossible to understand or believe. Well, yeah, that's not a real category. Meaning everything that you say is ultimately going to be heard or understood. And then I'll take from Tzibor is the hard one, right? Don't separate from the community. I mean,
yeah,
Where
this
is
is
that?
random.
Oh,
I have an interpretation of that also. Again, this is all speculative here, but like I think there are people who I'll use an analogy first, okay? You know what a nonconformist is? Yeah,
I'm
well,
gonna
just-
guess
Go
someone who doesn't.
specific then.
yeah, is I'm not following like the behavior of society, but really what they're doing is they're just going against society, right? So their behavior is determined by society,
Yeah.
right? They think they're being a nonconformist, but they're just rebelling against society. And if society were different, they would act differently. So clearly your behavior is dictated by society, So I think there's a similar thing here where a person feels like they can be separate from. Sorry, now we have the problem. Now that Emily's back. Okay, now I can see.
Oh.
Yeah. I moved that so I can see Leah. Okay. But a person says about themselves that like, oh, I can totally like escape the influence of society. Truth is you can't. You can move out of society practically, but all people are shaped by society, either by the society itself that they're conforming to or that they're not conforming to. Like there's no, or even a person who like goes out and becomes a hermit and lives on their own is taking with him all of the societal values and stuff that he came from, and they're following him and dictating how he behaves. So you don't think, in other words, it's effectively saying, so let's just go through all of them again, right? When it says don't separate from the community, it's really saying because you can't, okay? Because your values are defined by the community. Don't believe yourself until the day you die means don't believe in yourself at all because you're constantly changing and you can't, it's impossible to, Don't judge your friend until you reach his place, but you can't reach his place, so therefore it's saying it's impossible to judge your friend. Don't say something which is impossible to understand. Here I actually think it's better if you say it to be heard, right? Like the way you were saying it. Don't say something which is impossible to be heard, because it will be heard, meaning
Because that's not possible.
Really?
it's not possible. Meaning, I think this is the thing also. People say that like, oh, if I say this in private, like it's not going to get out. But like these things have a way of getting out. So you should treat it as though there's nothing that you can, like, have you heard the expression, the walls have ears?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know that actually comes from the Gemara.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It comes from the Gemara. Now it's possible the Gemara got it from somewhere else. But it goes back at least as far as the Gemara. So that's an idea saying that like, or there's a pasuk in Koheles also that says, like don't say something in your room because like a bird will come and carry your voice somewhere. This is before Twitter, but it means that like don't say something on the assumption that it is completely private because it's not completely private. And then don't say when I'm free I'll learn because you can't be free. That does fit all of them. I never noticed that before.
Also, the one about the hearing, I feel like you can interpret it as like, don't say something that doesn't make any sense. Like, think what you say through.
Yeah.
Because if you say something that's incoherent. What's ununderstandable?
Yeah, incoherent is pretty good. Yeah.
Incoherent, then it's never going to be understood. So don't think.
Yeah, but I don't think that would fit the pattern of this, right?
Yeah, like never. Something that's incoherent will never be understood. So don't say I think that it's going to eventually be understood.
But okay, so here's what I'm missing is that the pattern we've established is it's telling you don't do an action, and it's saying that really that action is impossible.
Yeah, you're saying don't say something that you think will be understood because it will never be understood. It's impossible for
But this is saying don't say something that is impossible to understand.
Oh, no, the action that they're trying to achieve is saying something understandable.
Okay.
But it's impossible to achieve that if you're saying something incoherent.
Okay, I hear.
Don't think that an incoherent thing is possible to be understood because it's impossible.
Yeah. I feel like that's plain shot. That's what I
Okay.
understood as, but I don't know.
Yeah, I something doesn't sit well with me with that. I'm not sure why. Yeah. Okay. I think that's a good approach. But none of the meforshim say that. No, I mean, none of the ones I saw say that, but it still is a good approach. So let's look at some meforshim now for what they do say. Okay, so the first one is just I think one of the simplest, most straightforward interpretations. This is Avos Mברtnora.
I remember him.
Yeah, someone want to read?
I could.
Did you say I remember him and you said I remember that wine? Or
I love that wine.
I love that one. Yeah.
That's usually my line.
Yeah, go ahead, Emily.
Okay. At חברך עד שתגיע למקומו. Don't judge your friend until you get this place.
Yep.
אם ראית חברך שבא לידי ניסיון ונכשל. If you see a friend that comes to be
Yeah, what's the nisayon?
Oh yeah, a test.
Yeah,
or,
test.
Or like a stumbling block. Right?
Yeah, and then Minichal is, and then he stumbles.
Then he stumbles. Al detainuhu b'chova ad shetagia lidei nisayon kimoto b'tanato. You shouldn't judge them on their chova.
Yeah, this is the opposite of lakav zechus, is judging them lachova unfavorably.
Right. Until you get to his place, like get to the same test, and you succeed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. So this is plain shot. Okay, we still stuff to analyze here, but this is saying basically, first of all, what does it mean by test? I mean, it's not like the
challenge, struggle.
Yeah, some sort of challenge, struggle, something that effectively puts him to the test. Is he going to succeed or fail? You know, a difficult life circumstance where there's a clear success and failure, right? And he fails. So don't judge him until you have arrived at a test like him, and been saved. So now this is really where it strengthens our. So now we need to understand two things. First of all, why shouldn't you judge him if you haven't been in the same test?
Because you don't know.
And then and then if you get to the same test, why does that give you the right to judge him? Especially given the fact that we said that you can't really know anyone's internal world. You know. Yeah. Sorry. What were you gonna say for the first question?
So for the first question, you can't. Wait, what was the first question?
First question is why can't you judge him if you haven't been in that test?
Oh, because you don't know how you would react.
Yeah,
you don't know what the test exactly was.
You don't know how you would react. I think this is like, again, this is straight shot here, is that it's very easy to look at someone and say, well, if I were in that situation, I would act differently. But then many times, if you are in that situation, then you would not act differently. You know, yeah. I think I remember the first time that I realized this idea in a Jewish perspective, that there was a Holocaust survivor who came to speak to our high school. I think it was my high school, maybe it was my shul, when I was like in 12th grade, and he said he was this religious guy, and he look, we know that you can't judge people who were in the Holocaust, but this was like your eyes are gonna get big when I say this. So he was a religious guy. I think he was like a gifted student or something like that, and he learned with like the Rebbe of his village, and like he was a Chassid, and this is I think one of the Hasidic sects that I think no longer is around anymore because they were all killed, you know, or like the sect was killed out. So he said he was in the camps and like he tried to keep his faith in Hashem, and he davened to Hashem to save him and stuff like that. And then finally he decided to he said like he felt like God abandoned him. So he started davening to his Rebbe. So he abandoned Hashem and davened to his Rebbe, you know. Now I remember thinking like, okay, I've heard of some Hasidim who like relate to the Rebbe as like an intermediary to Hashem, but I've never heard of someone who became an atheist vis-a-vis Hashem and just dove into his Rebbe, you know. So my first gut reaction was to judge the person, you know, but then I thought of this, and again, it's intellectually it's a very easy idea to understand, but emotionally, like it's hard. It's like I have no idea what I would do if I was in that situation, you know. And if like that was someone who, it's almost the same thing as if you see in like war movies, soldiers who are wounded and like cry out for their mom, like they don't literally believe that their mom is going to like swoop down into the battlefield to get them. It's just like your source of security just comes out at that time, you know, and like maybe his source of security was his Rebbe, you know.
Also, his Rebbe is in the ideals of Hashem. So. Yeah,
exactly, right. Yeah, that's also true. And then there's a Gemara about this. I don't know if you've ever heard this Gemara that I think it was Rebbe Meir, I'm not sure, who was criticizing Menashe, the evil king, for worshiping Avodah Zarah. You know where I'm going with this?
No. And you wouldn't?
So Menashe appeared to him in a dream and said, if you had lived in my time, you would be like grabbing onto my coattails to chase after me, like to learn how to do Avodah Zarah the way I'm doing it. You know, don't judge until you're there. You know. So I think that's the basic idea here. But now, how do you have the right to judge if you're in his a test like him if it's not the same test? Because and even in his words, he's saying nisayon kamoso, right? Mm-hmm. And also not only that, it's a test like him, and you have been saved.
Yes, you have that extra experience of being able to overcome it.
But the implication, and maybe you can answer this, but the implication is if you got into a test like that and failed, you still can't judge him.
Yeah, of course, because you don't even know how to fix his actions.
Okay, so that's a good thing. Okay, good, yeah. So what were you gonna say for the other part though? So,
yeah, no, because since you succeeded, you can kind of judge what he did wrong. Like when you're saying you're judging him, I feel like
Okay, good.
The judging part, like
Yeah.
you're judging what went wrong.
Okay, good. So judging does not mean like what we thought in the sense of like this is a bad person or whatever. It is a like evaluating the nature of his failure.
Yeah, like the mistakes.
Yeah, the mistakes. Yeah, so that's the Dain L'Kav Chova is see when we encounter Dain L'Kav Chova, that's like interpreting his behavior in a positive instead of a negative way. Doesn't sound like that's what it's talking about here. It's saying like being in that situation and then being able to see well I saw what could have gone wrong for me and I avoided it. So now I can like see what you know, where did he go wrong?
Doesn't that ultimately make you judge them?
Yes. And that's what this mission is saying.
Unfavorably.
No.
Yeah, no, unfavorably, right? Because this is saying that you can judge him unfavorably, but only when you've been in that situation and you've succeeded.
But also, I think it's constructive criticism.
You're not necessarily conveying it to him.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought we were saying you're using this as an example of like redefining for yourself and like reminding yourself what's right and what's wrong and like how to react to certain situations for yourself. Because I can see how like you look at someone and you see them doing something bad and you say, oh, okay, that's the wrong thing to do. I would do it differently, and you do it differently.
Yeah.
Because whatever, but you have your own set of strengths and they have their own set of strengths.
Yeah.
And they might not be able to overcome that, but you can. So you use it as an example for yourself, but you don't judge them for how they react.
I'm gonna say something that's gonna sound like a joke, but I'm serious. You're answering a different question than the one we asked. No, but I'm serious. We need to add a question, which is the question you're answering, which is, what would be the purpose of judging a person
even still,
in this case? And you're saying it in order to like get stuff to apply to yourself, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought we were saying for her.
Maybe that is what we're saying. Maybe I just missed it.
No, because even still, like we're not judging them. We're not judging an action of theirs. We're judging their response to a specific test.
But why?
Yeah.
Because we're trying to learn from it.
But haven't you already succeeded in it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
right.
no. So this is a question on her, not on you.
Yeah,
I think,
right.
right? Yeah.
Right. So that's what we.
Like on both.
Especially Emily too.
No, I mean we're not judging it to see what we're not supposed to do. I guess we're kind of judging it and being like, okay, I didn't do that, and that what I did was good. I guess we're judging it as like a right and wrong versus like failing and succeeding. Like that's what you're using it to judge for.
I mean, it sounds like the standards we're using right now, we're definitely applying the criteria of succeeding and failing. Like we're walking into a situation. Yeah. Why does it matter?
Because then you can't judge someone if you both fail. You can't judge them saying like, "Oh, I would have done that better." You just failed the test.
But how do you know that you're being more objective than them? Like if you're saying that it's something that you're deciding what's right and what's wrong, how do you know you're not putting your subjective?
No, you're not deciding what's wrong, what's right, and what's wrong. It's already happened.
Right. I mean, they already failed.
They already failed, and you already
what's the point?
succeeded. It's an action. It's not like it's a test, like a response to an action. It's not like one of their like, oh, they picked up, they like made the happy thing, like you know.
Maybe
Wouldn't
happy
it
thing
be
was.
bad to think of like what they did wrong? Because then that's just gonna make you think badly of the person.
Not badly of
if you already
them.
passed, then
No, because then maybe you're like looking at it as like a why was I saved or why did I succeed versus them failing, like what was different and what could I do again that would
for the future, like to learn.
Yeah.
Can I just remind us? I don't know if this is relevant. We made a big move when we did the Dain L'Kav Chova thing. We asked the question, why do you have to judge them at all? And do you remember how we answered that?
Because you only have what you see.
Yeah, but why can't you just?
Either way.
Yeah. So I think that was an important move last time. Is that we're judgy creatures, right? Like we will judge them either way. Okay. This is now I'm taking a different approach than what we were saying before about like for a practical thing. So we're gonna judge them anyway. And what this is saying is reserve judgment until you've been in a similar situation like them. You know. So maybe it is acknowledging that you're never going to be in exactly the same situation as them because no two situations are exactly alike, and you're not the same person as them. But it's like being in the same situation. Like remember when we did in Hilchos Tshuva Gemara is you're in the exact same scenario with with the guys in the scenario with the same woman in the same city. Look, it's not the same thing. Like time has passed. Like maybe she has a few gray hairs now, or like he's a little bit slower. But but it means like a similar situation, and so it's acknowledging you can't get into the exact same situation, and you do want to judge. But if you apply this principle, you'll say like, look, I can't adequately judge unless I've been in a similar situation. So it's saying like put your judgment on hold until you've done that. And if you are in a situation and you do succeed, So you do have then the right to judge because you have now experiential data that you, in other words, okay, maybe this is even clear. You can't judge him in the sense of like he should have done something differently because you don't know what his internal world is like. But when what thoughts are you going to say when you see this guy? Like, what form is your judgment going to take? What was that?
Like, you think less of him, and therefore, like, don't.
You think less of him because you say to yourself, if I were there, I would have done something differently. Right. So now that you have that data that you were there and you did do something differently, so now like you can make that judgment. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to like brainstorm here. It almost reminds me also of what we said when you don't believe in yourself until the day you die. So that was saying only at the very end of your life can you look back and say, this is who I was. Similarly here, after you've gone through a similar test and you've succeeded, then you can say, if I were in the same test, I would have done X, Y, Z. And you did that. So you can say that now. You do have the right to say that, you know?
The reason I don't like that though is because you're saying like, judging, you should never judge them. So this is like a rationalization, a true rationalization to help you push it off until you can't say this rationalization anymore. Yeah. But at that point, I don't see why you could just say the next rationalization that you were in that same place, but you were in like a similar, what may seem like a similar place when you're just looking at one little thing, but it's like the universe thing. Like that's one little speck on the universe. You may have been that same little tiny speck, but like there's an entire universe that you're not.
Right. Wow, that went you up really fast. Right. So could we boil that down to a question?
You're not saying that you're like the all-knowing. You're just saying in this situation.
Yeah, you're saying I would have done this, and you did do that.
Yeah, but once you're saying the reason that you would say this, like don't judge until you reach this place, is as a rationalization to hold you off from judging them, right? Because judging them is bad. We don't want to.
Right.
What do you mean it's
Meaning like I would say I wouldn't use the word rationalization unless I misunderstand you. I would say like it's like a strategy to prevent yourself from judging them.
But then once you're giving this strategy, like over here, your interpretation is that once you're done with this strategy, then like just go ahead and judge them already. But I'm saying that no, once you're giving a strategy, why don't you just give the strategy that there's an entire different world that you don't know about? Like once you're giving a strategy, why this? Give the real.
I think because
because then you end up knowing about that world that you didn't know. Like you know what the test is like, even if it's not the exact same test, and you know what the circumstances were. At the same time, like you could also say that like since you're not the exact same person and not the same person's head and ability and their thinking and everything like that, you also still aren't in their shoes.
Right. I'm going to just comment on the first part of your answer and just say the same thing in a different way, which is that it is pointing out to you what you're lacking, which would skew your judgment. You're lacking the experience of having been there in that position. So it's in other words, it is giving you the strategy and giving you the reason why the strategy is necessary. You can't judge the person because you lack the experience of being in a test like that and succeeding. But therefore, if you have been in a situation like that and have succeeded, then you're in a position to judge. And yes, it's true that like you don't have all the details, but no one's going to ever have all the details. But this is enough for you to say, if I were in that situation, I would have done differently.
Right. The fact that you're saying you would be in a position to judge, right?
Yeah.
But are you actually saying that they'd be in a position to judge? Or you're saying like because human nature is that we judge, you'd be in a
saying you're in a position to say that if I were in that position, I would have done differently.
But I don't think you are.
Yeah,
but you are because you were in that situation and you did act differently.
You were in that situation though. You may have been in the same like ice, chocolate, or vanilla, but you weren't in the same like
internal situation.
I think it's like this. Like I was thinking like when we were thinking of examples, like it's kind of like the whole Shabbat closing thing. Like we're all in our different situations, and we all choose different things. But we were saying like been there, done that. Even if we all were thinking differently at the time, like we still.
Yeah, I mean we can't. Meaning, and this is the fun thing about thinking about this puzzle. On the one hand, we have our Mishlei point that like we can't ever be in the exactly same scenario as another person. But on the other hand, you're right. You guys were you. It would be false to say that you going through the Shabbat closing experience is like there's no relationship that either of you have to any other experience. No, you were in a very, very similar situation, and like you can and that does give you more like. Your sister, who's presumably still in a school, right? Like, we're not saying she and you are equally not able to judge what Emily went through. No, you are in a much better position to judge what Emily went through, even though you can't get it exactly because you did go through the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yet at the same time, her sister may be in a better position because she has the same family. She, like for me, let's say I went someone who did not go to Lomdeha or whatever.
Right.
Like you could say, like, oh, they're choosing not to spend their year learning, whatever, bad. But then you could say, but for me, like I have some, like my mom literally created this. So like, that's a big like reason why I did this. And I can't say like, oh, I was in their situation. I was definitely not. Let
me maybe make a clean division between the Mishlei pasuk and by the way, I realize I haven't said the Mishlei pasuk. let me just repeat the Mishlei pasuk. Right, the Mishlei pasuk was 14:10, I think, which is the heart knows its own sadness, and no stranger can share in its joy.
Oh right, we did that one.
Yeah, that's and the idea that we said for it is, and this is where I'm going to make the differentiation, is we talk about empathy a lot, and we say I feel your pain. You can never actually feel someone else's pain. You can only feel your own pain. And the most you can do is if you see them in a state of pain, or either see them displaying signs of pain or you see them in a similar position that would cause pain, you can say, well, I've had experiences like that. They must be going through something like what I went through, but you can't actually feel their pain. Okay, so.
Exactly. Like also, maybe with her example, like my dad is in charge of the accounting, so I'm not saying I could get out of it, but at the same time, I can't get out of it, just like you. Mm-hmm. I'm like, obviously I chose it and then he became that.
Right, but like let's say Leia. Or Rachel, or like anyone else.
Yeah, and if I weren't in, I'd starve to death. So, but here's the clean distinction between Mishlei and between Mishlei and this Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. It's you cannot ever feel someone else's feelings. But feeling someone's feelings is different than judging their decision.
So that's part of the decision.
It's part of the decision, but it's not the decision. Making decisions, evaluating decisions does not require that you have their feelings. It requires that you have enough data to make a decision, because all of our decisions are made with incomplete data. Yeah. And in this case, I don't know if I can. It was a good sentence. No. I'll try to repeat what I was saying.
No. I was going to ask you to repeat. I was going to say, can you redefine the word judge then?
Yeah. Good question.
Evaluate.
Well, I still don't think so, because their decision is not. It's like human. Like, let's say you say, "Oh, are you like should you like be rational or should you be emotional?" Like, you could argue, yeah, you should be completely irrational, but then you're ignoring the emotional side. Right. So you should like take that into account. So it's the same thing. Like if you're making a decision, the decision isn't only chocolate or vanilla. Like there's so many, and I don't think the feelings are something separate. I think they're the same thing. Like they're part of. It's not like you can't separate the feelings from the decision, because the feelings are the factors in the decision.
Right. Okay, but here's the thing. Here's the thing, and I don't know if this is relevant. Okay, let's say you want some advice on. let's say chas v'shalom, your house burns down, and let's say my house is burned down. Okay, and let's say you come to me and say like I need some advice. Like how did you live through this? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not you. Like that's like it's a different house. I had a different like that we would all say that there's something wrong there, right? Yeah. Clearly there is some input or some perspective I can have because I had a similar experience. So that's really the point Emily was making about the Shahava closing thing, and I don't think you need total knowledge of the person's internal and external circumstances to be able to offer that perspective. There is something of like going through a similar experience. Soldiers who were in the same war, even though they went through very, very different things, have a shared experience of being veterans, that going through the trauma of war, even though it could be like very different scenarios that they were in, but like have a shared perspective. I'm positing that that's the threshold that the Mishnah is saying, that if you're in the same realm of their experience, then you can judge. Now, I don't know what judge means yet, but the threshold is if you've gone through a similar test and succeeded, now you have enough perspective to be able to do this act of judgment.
So you're saying humans will do it anyway? There's a huge...
I don't know if I'm still saying that. I mean, okay. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I need that anymore.
Well, there's like a huge, like a big, not gap, a wide variety of like things that you can know about a person.
Yeah.
This falls short, but it is something.
Yeah.
Like this is like bottom of the list.
Yeah, like common denominator. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, but it's a lower. Like there's still so much not in common, but
Yeah.
it is one
No,
thing.
but there is a lot in common. Like a lot of decisions also we say that we shouldn't make off emotion, so that you don't need to know that part of their decision. And like even if somebody's decisions are made, like you can guess someone's decision because of their personality. It's also like different because you try, and when you make the decision, you want to make the right decision, so you try and go out of it like, objectively instead of like.
Right, but I'm saying objectively, you have to like if you want to make a decision. Like, let's say I want to choose what career I want to do. You could say, oh, I want to look at that objectively, but part of the objectiveness is my personality, and like I will be happy in this career.
Yeah, but see, the career is actually a good analogy, right? Because we say that one thing you should do if you're considering a certain career is like shadow someone, you know. And now shadowing someone, there's no way that equals like being in the job, but it is putting yourself into their world and going through what they do on a day-to-day basis for a limited time, and that gives you a better perspective to be able to judge whether this is something that is good for you or not.
So if you're saying that you do have that people will naturally judge someone eventually, then I see why you're saying that, because then there is a point where you can or you can't.
Right.
So you just have to say.
And this is just identifying a reasonable line where
But also kind of negates it kind of makes it.
You think you do have to say that?
I think you do.
I think
otherwise,
Otherwise, why are you even judging them? Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Yeah. What was
Then that makes it so much lesser because you're basically just saying since it's human nature, we're gonna allow it anyways.
No, but we're giving criteria that are actually behaviorally different criteria, saying that only when you've gone through the similar situation and succeeded, then you can give into this human nature.
Right.
Yeah. All right. This is a very fruitful Mishnah, and I have 4 more meforshim to go through that all have different ideas. So that'll be for tomorrow, I guess. Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah. I'm glad I didn't choose any of your Mishnahs that you submitted.